Hello everyone, Coach Dave here, and we are racing in the fixed series in iRacing in the BMW M8 GTE around Brands Hatch, and we're kind of going to jump right into it. Lots to talk about in this little clip. I haven't posted a race review, if you will, of my iRacing exploits, and that's just because I haven't done that much of it recently. But here we are on the M8. I'm P3 in class, and I just clipped the grass going into this left-hander and run wide, almost bottling my race, but somehow I just managed to keep it together, but I do lose a position. And this is where this race gets particularly interesting. There are two races in this video, but I didn't want to put the first 4 or 5 laps of this race in there because to be honest, wasn't that exciting. So here we are. We've now dropped to 4th place behind Lucas, and I'm going to try and get my way past here. Even though I give iRacing a hard time, I do enjoy the racing on here. I have my opinions, and I know some of you, I drive some of you crazy with them. But anyway, the racing is still pretty good, unless you're in the Mazda MX-5 class, where they can get quite aggressive if you've been looking at my Twitter recently. But it seems that in other races, like specifically these GT ones, it used to be the Ferrari Championship, unless you did the Monza round, but around other tracks in the Ferrari, the racing was really good, and a lot of the guys here are quite clean. In fact, I've had to make some adjustments to my own driving in this game to be a little bit less aggressive because the consequences are much worse. So here we are up against Lucas, a couple of laps to go. I did run wide, but prior to this I was actually pulling away from him, so I did have superior pace to him while I was in P3. However, the guys in front were pulling away from me, and I didn't really have an answer for them, so that's probably another thing why I ran wide the prior lap. I was just trying to push as hard as I could. I do have a terrible tendency in iRacing. It's just because I don't have that much time at the moment. I have a tendency to jump into races without that much practice, and then I sort of tend to learn the track and car combination on the fly, which can often lead to poor qualifying or 1 or 2 mistakes in the race. So that's what was happening here. This was the second race of 3 of the evening, and I was still sort of learning my way around. You'll see that I have a tendency here in this combination with this car to lock the rear brakes, and I did try to go a bit more forward, but the left rear brake wheel, I tended to lock more than the others. So despite running wide, I still had an opportunity here to hunt down the guys in front. I was now going after Jose, back in 3rd place, and I'm sensing a little bit of blood there. I believe that these were 10-lap races, and I have 2 laps to go to try and catch Jose and get a move done on him before the checkered flag. So trying to get into 2nd place. The leader was long gone, and frankly I just didn't have the pace of the top guys in these classes. Let's see, at this point here my optional best was a 120.5. To be honest with you, even in real life, Brands Hatch is not my favorite track. Very cool track to drive, don't get me wrong, but I do miss out on some pace here. So in this car here, I obviously haven't driven this GTE in real life. I've only driven the Ferrari GTE, which has no ABS either, but they do have traction control, a lot of downforce, and in my case I've driven on the Dunlop Confidentials, the GTE car, whereas I think that these BMWs are on Michelin's. All that being said, these cars still in the game are running to one single tire model from iRacing, so if it was a Michelin or a Dunlop that I've experienced in real life, it is actually irrelevant. But I do know what it's like to drive without ABS, and I would say that in the game, or in the sim, excuse me, the feeling with non-ABS cars is, to me at least, with my experience in the Ferrari, it seems to be a bit more accurate than the braking technique that we drive with ABS built cars. So you have to be very gentle on the braking here, you have to avoid lockups, and I've always likened driving these non-ABS GT cars to the same style of braking that you have in a kart, where you don't actually jump on the pedal to stop the car. It's much more gentle, the arc of the braking is a lot more gentle. Anyway, here we are on the final lap, and To be honest, at this point here, I already thought that I'd run out of overtaking opportunities. I could get a sense, of course, because I was catching Jose quite quickly. My lap times weren't terrible towards this part of the race. That he was in trouble. It's never quite clear why in the game. I don't have a feeling for when the tire goes off. Just the lap times get a bit slower. And I think in this case here, Jose was in a bit of trouble. I don't know if it was grip related or engine related. I'm not sure. It seems there that he was lacking a rear grip. As we approach the last corner, I go to the outside thinking there's no ways I'm going to get this done. I go down a gear shorter than I would, and somehow managed to get the move done around the outside and actually cross the line in second place with just one kink to go. So I was pretty stoked with that, and I was looking forward to doing another race in this, in this combination before switching to something else. So here we go. This is race 3 of 3 that I did on the evening. There was a tendency for the guys to jump the start effectively, which I wasn't kind of prepared for. I thought that we were going to do a slow build up to the line and then go for it. But people were accelerating, or drivers were accelerating very early on, and that was catching me out. So a little bit of lack of experience there. There is a lot more flexibility in iRacing at the start compared to, say, Assetto Corsa Competizione and definitely GT Sport, which is handled by the AI until the lights go green. So we get the jump into third place, and I'm already feeling pretty good about this one. I felt like we had some pace to finish in second again, but very quickly the car behind me was trying to make a move. He goes down the inside here, and I just managed to hang it around the outside, which is quite cool about Brands Hatch. Even in real life, there is enough space and rolling momentum and grip on this track where you can go side by side through this narrow track and still somehow come out in front. So I really do enjoy that about this racing, and it's cool that I was in a lobby where the other drivers were being respectful of that space. So now it's going to be a case of losing time to the guys in front and having to defend like crazy. So Cameron now tries to go along the inside, and I'm just squeezing him as much as I can. I'm not entirely... I believe that the rules here are quite... how do I explain it? Apparently the rules around defending in this game are very strict. But anyway, go down the inside. He doesn't really defend that move. He could have kept turning on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. I bump doors with him and get the move done. And then we just jump ahead, and the reason we had to jump ahead there was there's a sound issue with my recordings, which I'm still trying to solve, and this is with all the sims that I'm playing at the moment, and it's why I haven't released any or videos as often as I should do. It's purely because I'm having so many frustrations with my recording equipment, but I'm hoping to fix that in the new year with a bit more investment from my side with some new gear. So anyway, got the move done there. After that little door bump, something happened to Cameron, I'm not entirely sure, but now I have Alexander in my rearview mirror, and he's hunting me down. So while he's hunting me down, let's quickly talk about two things which I know bother a lot of you. One is my field of view, and I first of all play with a single screen. It's not a big screen either, and I have always, from the day I started sim racing, if I can get the dashboard view, if I can set it myself, I always set it so that I can see the hands and wheel in the car. This does two things. One, it makes the YouTube videos better because you can actually see the steering wheel inputs, and it's more, in my opinion, makes for a better YouTube video. But number two, I've always enjoyed looking at the interiors of these cars. Now I know a lot of you prefer using the mathematical calculations for field of view, but I prefer this way. And if you sat inside a GT car, this is kind of what you see. Okay, this is obviously I don't have 3 screens here, so I can't do the mathematical setting. Then I'll just be sitting like a granny on the front of the dashboard, and I hate that. I like to see what's going on inside the car. It also helps me calibrate, just for myself, my steering input versus the output that you see in the game, and that will change from car to car. For example, the Mazda MX-5 I believe has a different ratio to the BMW M8. So the BMW M8 you barely turn the steering wheel and the car turns, whereas with the MX-5 you have to turn a lot more. So I like to see that sort of the calibration between the two, visually and through my inputs. And I also love steering it cockpit views from all the cars that I race. And this has just been something that before I was an actual racing driver, I liked to dream that I was in these cars like many of us sim drivers. And this is why I've always gone with the inside view. Anyway, Alex is trying around the outside. I'm defending like crazy into paddock hill. He's definitely got superior pace to me, and I managed to keep my my position, and he failed at the undercut there. So I suspected, and it's very difficult to try and get an undercut through paddock hill, but if you are able to defend on the inside line, then the corner should be yours. The key thing there is not to run too wide as you go up to the next right-hander, which I've forgotten now, which is probably the primary overtaking place on this racetrack. Is if you get a good run out of paddock, turn 1, and you go up to turn 2 in the hairpin, if you can get on the inside, as I did with Cameron, then you should be able to get a pretty clean move done, which I've done. I actually haven't managed it in real life. I've overtaken around other parts of this track in real life, but in sim racing, that is definitely a hotspot for overtaking. And I was pretty... So my primary goal here is to defend in paddock hill so that he can't get the run into turn 2, which I forgot the name of. I don't know any of the corner names, I just know paddock hill. Anyway, he's now getting much closer. He's in the slipstream, which seemed particularly strong in this car, so maybe someone can explain that to me. And he's going to try another move here, and I'm not sure. I think I'm a little bit early here, but this one he slightly misjudges. No, all good. So now he's actually hanging around the outside much more aggressively, and I do a technique there where I actually slow down a little bit to get him side by side with me, and that avoids the opportunity for him to do a direct undercut. If I allowed him to slightly drop back so that when we under braking he's still behind me a little bit, he could technically do a genuine undercut, ride a little bit of the curb, and sort of scissor me as we approach turn 2, and then I would not have the opportunity to defend through there. Anyway, going down now, we're on the extended part of the track. I'm now sort of doing long lines, as I call them, where you drift across the track with one movement, which is what it's allowed in real life. Again, I'm not entirely sure what's allowed in sim racing in this game. It's definitely allowed in GC Sport, so you can add that in the comments. But long lines where you sort of drift along the track with one movement allows you to create a little bit of doubt in the driver behind you, in his mind, about where you're going to position the car before braking. I'm anti moving under the brakes, but prior to that is if you do move across the track once before the corner, I'm totally cool with that, and that happens all the time in real life. Anyway, so now again, Alex has superior speed. Again, he's going to try the undercut. I stay slow, and he hit me and then ran wide, and immediately I was like, oh my god, did I do something wrong here? But just after the race, I managed to save the replay and did this quick recording to see what was actually happening. So I'm on the inside, I take my regular line, and he tried to get the undercut but misjudged how much I was slowing down so that I could make the apex. And I managed to keep the position, and I suppose in real life something else would happen there, like maybe I would have got a punch or something. But I keep going, and we are still in third place, and we sort of bring this one home. But I'll use an opportunity here. We have about 2 minutes left in this video to talk about the clipping. So in my previous video I posted of iRacing, posted a lap comparison at Barcelona, and a couple of you went crazy about the clipping in the video. However, what some of the viewers didn't really notice was that that was the only clip that I've posted of iRacing where there is actually any clipping that I have experienced. Prior to that, my force feedback was actually set much lower, and I did try linear and non-linear mode. I didn't realize that it would garner so much attention, because honestly I was posting that video as a comparison between real life racing lines, sounds, physics, and etc., and the sim racing games, not necessarily my wheel clipping. That had nothing to do with me missing apexes or anything like that. But I just quickly, what I wanted to try was, because I don't like it when the wheel force is set too low, because then it feels like it's on mute. I said to myself, okay, I can't really feel the bumps and stuff through the wheel in any case in iRacing, no matter what wheel I use. So let me actually just turn up the force as much as I can, which I have done with DD wheels before, specifically at my friend Nick Foster's house. And let me see if I can get the same weighting that I do in the 488, and at least then I'll draw a little bit more satisfaction. And I did kind of get that feeling, but it wasn't necessarily something that I stuck around with. And as you can see here, there's occasionally moments where I do clip with the wheel, but the force setting is actually not that high. So I've kind of landed around a compromise between weight and fidelity. Fidelity is the word, that's the word I was looking for. So where I am with my wheel is probably different to where some of you will land up, but at the end of the day, you got to set it where you are the happiest. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great festive season. Thank you so much to my channel sponsors and of course my legendary Patreon members. Until 2020, I hope you've enjoyed everything on my channel, and we'll catch up soon. Until then, catch you around the next lap. Peace.